Welkom terug by die Groot Ontbyt. Gister, die 4 Maart, was Wêreld-vetsugdag of World Obesity Day. En ons selfs vanmôre met Kinza Hussain, sy is van die Suid-Afrikaanse nasionale Heart and Stroke, die Hart en Stroke Foundation. En ons selfs vanmôre spesifiek oor Wêreld-vetsugdag en die tema daarvoor was Let's talk about obesity and. So daar's ietsie ekstra aan. Ons gaan met Kinza daaroor gesels vanmôre. Good morning, Kinza.
Good morning to you and your viewers. Thank you for the opportunity this morning.
Lovely to have you, Kinza. Let's start with obesity. Let's get the scientifics and the politically correct terms out of the way, because a lot of people call it something else, and some people think I'm not obese, and other people say, but I'm getting mocked because of my weight. Am I obese? No, you're probably not. What is the definitive description of obesity?
Yes, so obesity is basically defined as an abnormal or excessive accumulation of fat in the body. But just like you said, sometimes people don't really know, are they just overweight or are they obese? You have to do a few measures to actually determine if you are obese or not. The quickest one that anyone can do is what we call the body mass index, and that's just our weight in kgs divided by our height in meters squared. And if that number is greater than 30, then you'd be considered as obese.
Say again, however, what's that formula?
It's your weight in kgs divided by your meters, your height in meters squared.
Squared, okay, yeah. Yes.
And if that number is greater than 30, then you'd be considered as obese. However, a BMI, body mass index, doesn't take factors such as muscle mass into consideration. So we always like to sort of do another measure on the side called waist circumference. And that's just when you take a tape measure around your waist and read off at the level of your belly button, and that gives us an indication of your abdominal fat. And there's cutoffs for that as well. For men, if that's greater than 102 centimeters, then you're considered obese. And for women, that number is greater than 88 centimeters. So that would be the two measures to use to sort of just identify whether someone is obese or not.
What are the current statistics? How many people suffer from obesity?
So according to the World Obesity Federation, worldwide, about 800 million people around the world are living with obesity. If we bring it back to South Africa, almost 65% of women and 30% of men are classified as being overweight or obese.
Wow.
And to make things worse, childhood obesity is also on the rise, and it's expected to increase by 60% over the next decade. And in South Africa, if we look at the ages between 6 and 14 years, about 13.5% of children are overweight or obese. So just in South Africa alone, we're looking at quite concerning figures.
What are the major causes for obesity? What leads to obesity?
So in the past, it's always been about, the focus has been, okay, someone's not eating correctly, or they're just, living a sedentary lifestyle, they're not exercising. And while those factors are still very important, it's still very important to speak about, good nutrition and the importance of exercise. It has been established that firstly, obesity is a disease. It's been established that it's a medical condition. We need to diagnose it, and then we need to figure out what the cause is, because the roots of obesity run very deep. There's many causes. There's genetics, just your human body, how your human body is built up. Studies have been showing now that obesity has the potential of starting as early as in utero. So what we mean by that is that if the mother is obese, then the chances of the child being obese and even developing other conditions such as heart disease later on in life is quite high. So that could be a cause. Healthcare access is another could be a deep root for obesity. Without access, to trained healthcare professionals, most people who suffer from obesity won't actually reach and maintain a healthy long-term weight goal. And then there's also mental health certain medical conditions, life events, and very, very important marketing. There's a complex relationship between food systems and health, with marketing of foodstuffs having a known link to obesity. So it's we say it's simple to just say someone's not eating correct, they're not exercising, that's why they're obese. But there's, you can link it back to so many other root causes.
It's interesting, Kinza, that you're saying it's not always the life choices. It's not always your diet or your exercise plan that's to blame for obesity. There are deeper rooted issues, medical issues, hormonal imbalance, metabolic imbalance, sluggish metabolism, those kind of things, apart from all the genetic aspects to it. Where do I go, honestly, if I have no idea where to turn? I can't help myself because I've done it already. I've already changed the food I eat. I've already changed my exercise routine. What can I do now to lose some more weight?
I think it's important, firstly, to understand what the cause is, like we said. If the cause is not necessarily your food, or the exercise, we need to see, like you said, is it perhaps a medical condition? In that case, perhaps we need a specialized healthcare professional to come on board. Sometimes, someone doesn't have the choice of choosing better foods, and that's when you need to sort of look at the holistic approach of tackling obesity. And that's when we say we actually need to bring in our social determinants of health, environment and neighborhood, healthcare access, education access. Perhaps we need to look into more public mass interventions like policies, because it's simple to tell someone don't buy a certain food, but if that's all they can afford, then it really isn't their fault. We need to maybe perhaps focus on something else to address the issue.
We obviously focus on obesity, but obesity can cause so many other health risks. What are some of those risks?
So, very correct. And I think the first important thing is that we need to sort of shift away from, like we said in the beginning, people get mocked. There's always a comment on someone's weight. So we need to move away from how someone's looking and focus on what the risk factors actually are if you are obese. So being overweight or obese increases your risk of having, many medical conditions, such as developing high blood pressure, diabetes, which in turn can increase your risk for heart diseases and strokes. And in addition to that, there's been a link to so many other conditions like selected cancers, joint disease. So I think it's important that be the focus, because a lot of the times people are too concerned about how they look, or perhaps there's a cultural aspect to being of a certain weight. So the focus really needs to be on what the risk factors are associated. And also, we've been speaking about how the numbers are going up. I mean, the conditions tripled since around about 1975. And it's actually been found that bias, stigma, and discrimination that's faced by people that are living with obesity actually has contributed to that increased morbidity and mortality that we're seeing globally. So definitely we need to keep linking it back to the risk factors.
Kinza, it's good to know that there are various factors and that there is help, that you can see someone professional, be it a dietitian or a doctor or a physician, to speak to them. And I think that's probably the only thing. People tend to think, I'm caught up in the system, I don't know how to change it. You just need someone from outside to step in and say, listen, here's some new insights and some new changes. And of course, just to lighten the burden somewhat on the health system and on your own health. Thank you very much, Kinza, for joining us this morning and for sharing some wisdom with us. Dis natuurlik Kinza Hussain, sy is van die South African National Heart and Stroke Foundation. En Wêreld-vetsugdag, Obesity Day, was nou gister. Kom ons werk so 'n bietjie harder aan die mense saam met ons. As jy dink jy's nie vetsug nie, jy het nie obese nie, dan help bietjie verslag ander mense eerder as om vingers te wys en sê jy doen nie genoeg nie. Tyd dat ons bietjie help met insig, met respek en met deernis.